This is willpower.
What if I told you there was a way to train your nervous system without using breathwork every day, without meditation every day, just by shifting your vibe? Yeah, literally shifting your vibe, but not like the woo-woo kind of vibes. Good vibes only, but the measurable, trackable nervous system shifting kind of vibes. Because today's guest didn't just ask, can we feel better? He asked, can we engineer safety into the body on demand? And then he built it. And the most wonderful thing for me as a host and as a person who works in the health optimization space and as a nervous system performance coach for athletes, for people navigating anxiety, for so many people and clients, is that I have gotten a chance to sit in sort of the front row watching Apollo grow. Apollo Neuro, if you're unfamiliar with it, I've talked about it on some shows, is the brainchild of Dr. David Rabin, who's on the show today. And David has been talking about psychedelics, about nervous system regulation, and he's just an all-around stellar human being. And I've gotten to watch his technology and his team's technology grow and evolve over the last probably 6 years or so since I first got my Apollo. And it's just become something that I rely on every single day. We talk in the show a bit about a car accident I just had here in Los Angeles and how the Apollo shifted my present state and actually sort of the outcome of me and the way that I experienced this accident. I was not at fault and I was hit unexpectedly from behind, quite high speed. I'm okay. Jeep's not doing so good. She's getting a fixer-upper right now, but how the Apollo affected that. And Dave is a board-certified psychiatrist, neuroscientist, trauma researcher, and the co-founder and chief medical officer of Apollo. He spent over 15 years studying chronic stress, PTSD, and the biology of resilience, working at the intersection of mental health, psychedelics, and human performance, and then developing this technology. And it's kind of wild. It's a wearable that uses gentle, precise vibrations, what they call Apollo vibes, smart vibes, to signal safety to the brain through the skin and through the vibratory patterns, and it shifts you out of fight or flight and into a regulated, adaptive state. What's all that mean, Kristin? What's that translation? It is like a wearable nervous system DJ. I talk a lot at Chirper Breath and Cold about what we're doing in the space of breath, cold, and heat therapy as we are working in the context of the person or the group that's in front of us as a nervous system DJ. And this is like a little pocket-sized nervous system DJ of your own. You can wear on your ankle, you can wear on your wrist. There's a very strong clip. You can wear it near your collarbone. And here's where it gets really interesting. In a double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trial, Apollo's vibration tech was shown to increase heart rate variability in minutes. One of the clearest biomarkers of stress resilience is HRV. And this is a very hard needle to move. So I've been utilizing it here in Los Angeles with the World Tour dancers that I'm working with on the 2026 World Tour for Ariana Grande. And I have been wearing the Apollo device for myself, and I've been using it in the integration process with my InnerQuest clients. And it is phenomenal. So I really strongly suggest you check out Apollo at a deeper level after you listen to this show. And the other studies that they've shown have up to a 40% reduction in stress, improvements in sleep, focus, recovery, measurable shifts in burnout, and overall well-being. So it's not just tracking your state, it is actively changing it. So we have a nice conversation. It's so great to have a conversation with someone who's so intelligent, but also can be conversational, so it doesn't feel too science-y. We talk about vibration, how it can literally rewire your stress response. Like, how does that work in the body, right? It's so curious, and Dave unpacks it today. Why HRV is the currency of resilience, how this technology trains it, and what it is, and what resilience does for us, and where human regulation and technology can continue to meet along the path, right? So how we're using these tools with athletes, high performers, and even alongside psychedelic therapy, deepening integration and recovery. The conversation is where science is meeting sensation. And I think this is a very strong piece of the future of nervous system regulation, where we can feel it, where we can understand it, and how we can become it. So Dr. David Rabin, here we go.
It's my pleasure to be with you, Kristin. Thanks so much for having me.
I see you travel so much speaking at conferences and taking so much time out of your schedule to share and educate with others. And I've been liking opening the show with a question. I wanted to just get you a little bit closer to the audience by talking about a challenge or stressor that came up in your life at some point that you had to navigate, and what that was, and maybe how it informed the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, it's a great question. Most people don't know that how much time or realize how much time it takes us to train in medicine and specialize in medicine. But I've spent over 12 years in medical training after college. So you think about that amount of time of being educated based on what we're taught are the gold standard best practices for treating things like mental illness that I treat as a psychiatrist. And, I specialize in trauma and addictions because I really like to solve hard problems. And what was really interesting to me and the biggest challenge that I think I realized I was facing after finishing my training, and I noticed a lot of my colleagues were also facing this challenge, is that after all that time spent being taught these techniques that we're taught are supposed to work when delivered correctly, we deliver them correctly and they're not working, right? And they're not working for not just a few people, but they're not working for like our medications and therapy techniques, are not working for over 70% in some cases of our patients, sometimes more. Or they work, but they work a little bit and they don't really get people to the end goal or near the end goal. And so patients are unsatisfied and we're unsatisfied, and we just spent all this time learning how to heal people according to, the by the book recommendations that are in many cases evidence-based for certain use cases, but often not evidence-based for like chronic long-term mental health issues. And so, that challenge is very interesting because a lot of people in my position burn out, or they just keep, banging their head against the wall, trying to use the same things we were taught, but without getting results. And it's really exhausting, and it's hard to deal with and reconcile our patients' dismay and hopelessness that arises when they've tried 2, 3, 4 treatments of therapy and medicine that haven't gotten them to where they're told they should be getting to in healing process. And then we have to deal with our disappointment of not being able to adequately deliver care. And, again, a lot of people in my position burn out or decide to leave medicine or choose a different path. And for me, I thought, if over 70% of our patients in the trauma and addictions category are not getting better with our current treatments, then maybe there's something to learn here. Like, how do we grow from this? In my perspective, is like the best question to ask when you are struggling with a challenge. And so for me, it was like, how do we do a better job? Is it possible, even though it's an uncomfortable question to ask, is it possible that everything I was taught about trauma and addictions and how these things work, for the most part, is not actually correct, right? Maybe we need to reevaluate the way we think about how trauma manifests in the body, the impact it has, and then why people seek self-medication with drugs and other things. And so as I started to ask these questions, not knowing the answers, I'm just like, I want to figure out what I can learn from this challenge that I'm facing. I actually ended up getting answers back. And those answers ended up shaping my career and how I studied the chronic stress response and mental illness and mental health in both elite performers, like some of the top artists in the world and athletes and military folks, and then also all the way back to the way that I treat patients in the hospital and people who are really struggling, who aren't able to sustain a job or livelihood for themselves at the other extreme. And so that was really the major challenge that I experienced that really pushed me to the limit of, should I keep doing this or should I try to figure out a solution to this problem?
And so you've like navigated quite a bit and expanded your practice in so many ways that are different than other psychiatrists and other people in the world. And I think I really want to lean into sort of how you stumbled on to the notion of creating this device, this technology that's been so amazing in my life called Apollo. As we're and I'm all like, can I be like, here's it on my foot? I wear it on my foot all the time. And you already know this, I'm sure, because hundreds of people tell you. But if I had $1 for every person that asked me if I was on house arrest, it's like I could just quit my job. But I've been wearing this for the better part of like 5 years now. I want to say it's like more than that, but it's like hard to remember. I've had it for so long. Like at the London show, there was like a London Health Optimization Summit. The first one, I think, is where I either discovered it or found it or something, and was like envious of people on stage wearing it and being like, how come I don't have one of those? And it's just been such a wonderful tool for me, and almost like, I want to call it a subtle tool, but I want you to talk about what the Apollo is, and I want to talk a little bit about the ways that we're using Apollo in general, and even just share with the audience, because many people don't know, because we haven't released yet what I'm doing here in California and how we are using it with like elite performers and athletes. And yesterday when I was in a pretty gnarly car accident here, that the very first thing that snapped me back into sort of the present moment was the fact that my smart vibes on the Apollo was running. And I can tell you more about that, of course, but I want you to sort of share with the listeners an understanding of what it is, because there's quite often a lot of questions about how does this actually work?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad that it helped you yesterday, with such a challenging experience and that you've enjoyed it so much over the years. We originally developed as a medical technology, but as in 2018, when we started testing it in the regular general population, including ourselves, we started using it every day, and it dramatically changed our lives in terms of sleep and focus and calm and clarity. And so we've been wearing it, almost every day for the last 7 years, which has been a tremendous life changer. I think the core concept of Apollo came out of this question of how do we help these patients better who are struggling with trauma and addictions? And this is going back now to like 2014 through 2018. I was studying and working with these people at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center and the VA, and working with veterans who were struggling to come back to civilian life after having extreme stress overseas in deployed zones. And what was really interesting to me was to see how similar the stress response was and the challenges that individuals were facing who were veterans coming back from war zones compared to like women and men who had experienced severe childhood trauma growing up, to elite athletes and extreme performers who were working full time, doing their craft, but still struggling with the same kinds of stress issues that were causing illness in many people. And as I started to look at, what is, again, trying to study a better understanding of trauma and what we know about it to date, and, realizing that our current techniques are not working very well because they focus on numbing us to the symptoms of trauma, not actually getting to the root cause. I thought, well, what happens if we start to look at the root cause? And as I started to look at this, I started to read all the trauma literature I could from science, and then also looking back into Eastern medicine and tribal medicine, and looking at how they all look and view trauma. And what I found is that when you look at all of these different traditions, when we try to look at the common ground about how they think about trauma, we're talking about, fear learning, right? Mm-hmm. So the body, when it experiences intense challenge that makes us afraid, where we can't like verify safety, or we're not sure about safety, but then we talk to somebody about it afterwards and they're like, what's wrong with you? You let that happen to you, right? That validates threat. And it's like the absence of the support we actually need that would translate that into a growth opportunity. It validates threat and victim mindset. And so seeing that pattern unfold, I realized that in many circumstances, that if all the studies that we have to date in both animals and humans, not just humans, but animals and humans, point to trauma as fear learning in the body and the brain, then how do we prevent or fix fear learning in these models and in these studies? And that's very well known now. It's from Kandel's Nobel Prize to B.F. Skinner to Pavlov, right? This has been studied for over 100 years. It just hasn't been fully integrated into the way we practice now. And the way we do it is we restore safety, right? And restoring safety associated with our day-to-day experiences that remind us of a threat, then reconnects those parts of the brain, safety and the experiences, and we create what's called a reassociation and fear extinguishing, which means like literally like taking a fire extinguisher and just covering fear in it, being like, no, you're out of the picture now, right? Mm-hmm. And that happens from a rewiring of our neural networks around safety. And so as I started to see that,
you're calling it fear learning, like that's how the body is learning fear, like just from a trauma definition standpoint, right? It's so we talk a lot about it being your response to an experience that happened to you, not necessarily something that happened directly to you, but this like layer of fear learning. And I think like I'm in this place of coming off of yesterday and really feeling like that was intense, and like sort of also it was a meta experience for me in the work that like I'm doing, which and also the work that you're doing. It's like you just process differently. You're going through something that's intense in the same moment that you're analyzing what's happening. That's in the intensity. So, but this fear learning layer, I know I interrupted you, but the fear learning layer I think is an important thing because it's something that is malleable, actually changeable in the system. And I think sometimes people don't feel like it is.
Exactly. So that's 100% the case. And it's also to be expected when we experience scary stuff, right? The body's going to learn a certain amount of fear and to preserve safety, right? That's the goal. That's how our bodies are adapting to the stress or the potential threat. So if your body was not a little bit on edge the next time you're in a car after what happened, that would be weird, right? Like it would be normal for you to be a little bit on edge when you're in a similar situation to what happened to you yesterday. The trick is, what do we do about it? And the good news is we can do lots of things about it, which is to do things that effectively remind ourselves that the situations we're in are actually safe, even though our brain may have, because of one or two or more experiences, be trained into thinking that they are not safe. And ultimately, when we started to look at this, I started studying ketamine and MDMA-assisted therapy because I wanted to look at the techniques that work the best. MDMA-assisted therapy, above and beyond, has results for treating PTSD in my patients, who are not responding to anything. And it's getting like 55%, 67% remission rates after just 3 doses and 42 hours of psychotherapy over 12 weeks. We're treating people for life and they're still not getting better, right? So that's a dramatic shift. And when I studied MDMA-assisted therapy, got trained myself, I realized very clearly that this molecule is working to make therapy go faster for these people, my patients, because it is helping accelerate fear extinction training. It's helping radically amplify safety so much in people through the molecular action of MDMA on the safety part of the brain that people feel safe enough to literally remake meaning around past traumatic events. So that pushed safety to the top of the list of the things we needed to investigate. If it wasn't already there, it was like almost there. Then it made it all the way there. We went back to the lab and we started trying to figure out, well, if it's the safety pathway that's most important to activate in people struggling with trauma or stress, then what if we could deliver that feeling with technology and wearable technology so you could take it everywhere? And so we started experimenting with what was known with electricity and sound waves. And we actually figured out that sound waves, and this was really the great discovery of our work in that 2016 timeframe, was that we figured out that you can send sound waves to the skin that are the same sound waves that could go to your ears. There's sound that comes out of a subwoofer or a stand-up double bass. It's like very low frequency bass sound vibration. So you can hear them, but our skin actually responds to them better than our ears because our skin picks up vibration. And so when we figured out that we could deliver these very special rhythmic vibrations that feel kind of like ocean waves washing over you, or like a cat purring on your chest, or like getting a hug from a loved one, that our body actually recognizes, our brain actually recognizes in the emotional cortex, that same part of the brain that receives MDMA and activates with safety with MDMA or with a hug, that soothing vibrations of sound waves can be tuned to a body to help activate that same part of the brain and remind people they're safe in real time. So that is Apollo. And that technology came out of our work at the University of Pittsburgh. And then we launched it at Health Optimization Summit in 2019, where you
Was
were.
it the London show though you first launched?
That was our pre-launch. Yeah. Like
Okay, great. So see, I'm OG.
Yeah, you are. No, you definitely are. Yeah. You were at our first pre-launch event, and then we launched officially and started shipping in January of 2020.
It's wild and it's wonderful, and to see like the way people are navigating even the landscape of psychedelics now, and people who are tentative about working with those medicines and finding technologies like this. And also the thing is, like, we're not going to do that. Like, you're not going to wake up every morning and be like, let me take some MDMA, right? Like, you just, I understand that the clinical sense that we can like help move past it, but people who are wanting to have something that's going to be able to help them navigate the day-to-day stressors of life, or when it comes to athletes, and again, we can talk a bit more about like the world of athleticism. There's so much maladaptive training going on in season. And right now I'm in like a rehearsal period with all these professional dancers, and it's like 8 hours a day, most of it dancing, like, and full out. And so it really feels like how that is maladaptive training, and everybody's aware of it, and there's just no other way around it because the rehearsal period has to be the way it is, and the timeline it is, and the budget it is. And so people in season, I haven't really worked with like an NFL team. I've worked with MMA fighters and Olympic skaters, but in season, they're just going for it, right? And they're doing the best they can to recover. And I'm a very firm believer in you're only as fit as what you can recover from. And so it's like, how do we get people's recovery to get better? And a lot of that recovery score, in many ways, as I'm tracking, has to do with sort of heart rate variability, the combination of what's coming out of the data I'm tracking in them on whatever data tracker I'm using. But the Apollo to me is just something that gives them, it's like a daily reminder that there's something on their side as well. Because for those of you who are listening who haven't seen this device, It's a wearable device. It can be worn on with a clip, which I even said to the dancers, be careful of the clip. I don't know if you're going to be able to dance with it on. And they can. And they're flailing around and they're getting crazy. So the clip's really good, sturdy. You can wear it on your wrist, and then you can look like you have a house arrest bracelet like me and wear it on your ankle, which is just my favorite place because I like tuck it under my little leggings and mostly no one can see it. And initially I really was excited about getting it because I was a very bad flyer, which I'm better now, but it's just like something, it's almost like, I'm like, I put it on and I'm like, I'm okay. You know, like there's both and, right? There's the fact that it is helping me. And then there's also the fact that I've over time navigated through that stress. And then there's also like the fact that I'm going to put it on every time because it's also like my lucky charm when I get on a plane. So it's just such a beautiful instrument for staying connected to your body. And if you're okay with it, I want to give you a little bit of a synopsis of what happened yesterday with the car accident, because I feel like I'll do it as sort of succinctly as I can, but it was such an interesting moment because the Apollo was so present for me, and I will never be able to tell you what would have happened if it wasn't on my foot and vibrating in the moment. So yesterday it was a no fault for me. Someone hit me from behind pretty intensely. 2 cars in front of me stopped kind of short over someone walking through a crosswalk. I didn't know if I was going to hit the car in front of me. I thought, whoa, it's likely that I am. I hit my brakes really hard, heard a screech, pumped the brakes as you do, and then averted a little to the right on like a tire or so on the grass to just like make sure I didn't hit the car. So it was a very close call, maybe 6 inches or so away from the car in front of me. And that moment that I didn't hit the car and I was like in full stop, I could feel myself from like the holding, the bracing that I had, just do a big exhale. And I was like, okay. And I literally thought to my head, I didn't hit the car, I'm safe. And the minute that that finished, there was like, boom, the loudest impact noise that I could imagine. And I'd never been in an impact car accident before in my life. So good driver up and, you know, good driving record. And when that hit, it was just like a little bit of everything slowed down. And I had this like full minute, which I was both sort of needing to take, but also taking myself. So like I needed to sit with it because everything kind of slows down, and taking a minute because I cognitively in some way knew like, okay, you've just been hit. That loud noise was an impact. And as a nervous system coach, as someone who works in the arena of stress tolerance, I was like, the first thing I need to do is like orient myself. I mean, you know, trauma and somatics trained. I'm like, let me orient myself. Like, where am I? How is everything in my body? Let me like do a body scan. And it's all happening so quickly. But as I did like little body scan, I felt on my right foot. It's so distinct to me exactly where it was. I was like, oh, I can feel the vibration of the Apollo. Okay, great. Let me like tap in and just like settle into that for a second. And then I was like, okay, I have some awareness. I'm like, the landscape's here. Certainly I wasn't blacked out or anything, but it's, and I wasn't in shock, but you know, it's just a very unexpected upregulating incident. And then I did some 3-6 breathing, and I was probably in the driver's seat. I put it in park for like a minute, maybe 90 seconds, just kind of doing these practices and tuning in with the Apollo. And then I was like, okay, let me step out of the car. And I proceeded to sort of step out of the car. I connected. I walked over to where there were a few people. A lot of people had gathered because it was quite a loud sound. I connected with the other driver, so on and so forth. Of course, we have to exchange information. But the entire time I was very aware of 2 things. Number one, that I was like super present. Now, I wasn't down-regulated, okay? And I wasn't certainly in shock, but I was present enough to say, which one of you is driving? Okay, you were in the car alone. Hi, what? I was so facilitatory. It was weird. It was like, I was like, what's your name? I'm Kristin. I want to check in on you. Are you feeling okay? Because I feel like I'm okay. That was a lot. That was pretty intense for you. I saw the airbags went off. Like I had a little conversation. And then I sort of realized it's not all just about him. You have to care for yourself, and sort of cared for myself in that moment. And then a couple people came up to me. I saw it. You were fine. He hit you so hard. Like I could have caught it on my camera and my car. Like what? Just people are, it's interesting, right? How other people's nervous systems are like, you know, they're riled up by it and they came over and they want to be helpful. And some guy came over and jammed his like collision center auto body repair card in my face. And I was like, I just sort of parried that off. And the other guy was, I'm like, what's your name? He's like, Evan. I was like, Evan, I'm doing okay. Like I almost had to like co-regulate with Evan to make sure that he felt like I was okay. And he said, are you sure you're okay? You're really calm. And like that it's kind of a misnomer, right? Because I wasn't totally calm. I was just regulating myself, and in the presence of myself and the awareness, regulating off of the moment that I took in the car and continuing to regulate, even though I knew my system was upregulated. and a bit, even say like agitated maybe. But the second thing and the biggest thing I learned that was like, this is nerdy, but I think you'll appreciate it. Like I know that the nervous system is checking in every 200th of a millisecond, right? And so listeners might have heard that when I like interviewed Nicole from In Truth and some other people who are doing research around that. But the nervous system is checking in every 200th of a millisecond. And I really got the meta experience of being a nerdy nervous system coach and sitting with this 200th of a millisecond happening, like while it's all happening when it's in a very intense environment. And I was like, oh, the entire time as I'm like wearing the two hats of both this like person who got hit by a car, cars got hit by a car, and then this person who's like analyzing the situation moment to moment, it's so settled into me on how much it's like our nervous system and our bodies are just like, they're the magic carpet. They're always going to be ahead of us. They're always going to be one step ahead, many milliseconds ahead. My thoughts and my feelings, for the most part, are the aggregation of 50 to 100 of those millisecond moments. I was like, the only thing I can do in this situation is really how I framed it to myself. I was like, just kind of like surrender and be like, can I sit on the magic carpet that is my nervous system, which is already ahead of me in like processing and taking in the environment from inside and outside? And can I just like ride it and like be witness to it and regulate around what I feel like is coming up and know that I don't know what's coming. I don't know if I'm going to get sleepy. I don't know if I'm going to cry. I don't know, whatever. And just like, it was just like this moment of like clarity that I was like, I'm actually not fully driving. Like we keep thinking we can think our way out of things. I know you know this, but like we just can't. I rode that, made good decisions about like Jeep calling me and saying, do you need a tow? And me saying, I'm in the middle of an intersection. My car moves a little. I'm going to drive it 6 blocks home so I can be like safe in my own body. The tow truck came to get it, and just navigating to 2 or 3 hours later when I finally was like, oh, that I can feel in my system. I think the adrenaline just finally like calmed. Right. And I like kept, it's like I got home. It's like the weirdest woo thing. I smudged. I changed my Apollo setting to recover. First calm and then recover. Like I did those. I just back-to-backed a bunch of settings. And I went to the studio where there was a lot of the dancers and the people that I love and know. So I felt like I could be around people in case I needed anything. So I know that's a really long story, but like what's so interesting is that notion of, I never in my life before have been in a wildly intense situation where I could be a bit analytical and just like surrender enough to like feel what was happening. And then be like, wow, this is my body doing all these things. And I could feel the body scanning in the accident. I could feel my body on the drive home when a dancer drove me home, totally normally, totally at the speed limit. I was like, it was like, oh, she's changing lanes. Is this okay? Like it was having all this ramp up going on so that I could really like speak to myself internally, put my hands on my body and remind myself that it was okay, and really try to reincorporate the experience in a way that it's not going to hopefully stick with me for too long of a time. So that's my story, Dave. I mean, it was crazy. And I'm like, I imagine I would have been okay either way without the Apollo. But the first notion of me after that accident, feeling the vibration, was like, okay, I know where I am. It's presence to me so much,
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and I'm just glad you're okay.
I know.
It's a really stressful situation. I think, a lot of people who are in that kind of situation, to like juxtapose what happens to people when they experience that kind of car accident or that kind of shock, is that they enter shock, right? Mm-hmm. And shock is not a associative moment with your body where you're completely in tune and present like you experience. Shock is the opposite. It's like full dissociation from your body. And that's at least the outcome. And then what happens when you kind of come down from shock is usually, if you're not mortally wounded, it's usually like anger and irritability and frustration. That is the first thing you present, not presence with the person who just hit you.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, totally.
And I think like what you're describing, that is exactly what we've seen with Apollo in the clinical trials and in the real world, is that it helps people transition more quickly from threat to safety. Mm-hmm. And we need safety to recover. So if you had somebody in the car with you and that you knew they were okay, and you got in this accident and they put their hand on you right away and they were like, hey, don't worry, you're okay. That's the same experience you had with Apollo. And that would also ground you and bring you back to the present moment and help you self-regulate and de-escalate yourself much more quickly so that you could be more of yourself in the subsequent interactions with people.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's like mimicking of the things, like you said, a cat purring, a personal connection, and just feeling safety and feeling supported by others in connection.
Yeah, and just knowing, just that constant reminder that like we are not, like I might have been in danger, in dire peril a second ago, right? But I'm not right now. I'm okay. My body's okay. I survived. Everything's okay. So if I'm okay and I can fully grok okayness, right? Like I am safe in my body now. I'm not in danger. Then what's supposed to happen is our body is supposed to downregulate everything, and it downregulates everything with vagus nerve activity coming up. So safety triggers the vagus nerve, which is the key nerve of the parasympathetic rest and digest nervous system that counteracts and competes for resources with that fight or flight stress response system that gets set off by the accident. Then the accident happens. Then you confirm with yourself, okay, I'm safe. I'm okay. You do your body scan, right? And you're like, okay, I'm okay. And nothing's in immediate like pain or bleeding or broken or what have you. And you get out of the car, and then it can still, with the best of techniques, take hours to come back down to your safe state. But for some people, it can take months or years if it's not addressed properly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's really why we developed this technology, because people who have had these things happen, who don't have the kind of support and the knowledge base that you have and the tools that you have, often end up struggling with the aftermath of that fear and threat effects on the body from a car accident or any number of other things for months or years after the event, not hours or days or weeks, but like much of their lives. And that's something that's completely avoidable.
Yeah.
So this is now a new tool that people can use to start to help, respond to stress better and remind us that we're safe, so that we can come back to the present moment and not still be living in the past fearful situation.
I wanted to take a moment to share something deeply personal. I have gone through a big transformation in the last few years of my life and really had this beautiful opportunity to lean into psychedelic therapy. And you might be noticing on this show that I'm bringing a few more guests and scientists and prolific thinkers and people who are deeply rooted in this industry, in this landscape, because I want you to be able to be highly informed about how important this work is as it begins to get more popularized, as we begin to have this psychedelic renaissance, if you will. And you might be listening to this show or sitting here right now navigating some fear or insecurity, or wondering how you can rewire these patterns, these stories that you've had since you were younger, or based on something that may have happened to you in your life. And I want to put an offering on the table as I crack the door and begin to speak more publicly about doing this work. The Inner Quest program is a private program that I designed. It's a high-touch container. I work one-on-one, and I work with couples. Even though I've been holding group ceremonies, the most massive transformation that I see and get and understand is when I'm able to work with someone so closely and share so much love and unpack all of the fear that this life can bring, to see them on the other side. It's not about chasing calm. It's not about having a peak experience. It's really about building nervous system capacity to hold your entire life, your truth, your relationships, your next chapter, because there's so much coming for you. So much coming for you. I can just feel that. And when I get to do this work with people and see them open up the door on the biggest dreams of their life coming true, it melts my heart. And it's so possible for you. And I say that in a deep, deep way, because it's been possible for me to get through some of the most challenging times of my life in the last couple of years. So I've done this work personally, and now I'm bringing it to the world professionally. And over the last year, it's been such a groundswell of positive outcomes that I really wanted to share it with you here, that I'm, again, cracking the door to let you know you are not left alone with just your insight. You are here to do the biggest, most amazing things. And I want to help you translate your dreams into action. This work is personal, it's intentional. I deeply support you. And if it's something that feels like I'm ready for this, I've been thinking about this, I've been reading about this, I've been feeling into it, if you're just ready, I'd love for you to email me so we can have a conversation about what's the best way to work with a practitioner in this way, the kind of work that I do, where you're at in your life, and really make a decision with care. So the offer's on the table. You can email me directly at Kristin@wellpower.life. That's Kristin @wellpower.life. And tell me what's calling you forward, because I'm here to help you with your inner quest. Yeah, it was so cool. And there were even just little moments where I was like, oh, that because my bag went flying, my phone flew off the mag charger. And I was looking for my phone. I was looking for the insurance number. And I was just like laughing to myself a little like, oh, even simple, I was saying in my head, like, oh, even simple tasks I have to move really slowly right now to get accomplished. Or just like, letting it be okay. So what, like, okayness can come in a lot of different varieties, right? Letting it be what it is, knowing that even now everything is changing and I'm just going to be here for it. And that's, talk a lot about being the most regulated person in the room. And so I was like, I just felt connected, even to that guy, Evan. He's like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm a nervous system coach, Evan. I'm okay. It was just, I was like proud of myself. But when we talk about this in heightened intensity situations, I want to just address the conversation for pieces of like increasing HRV through this wearable and getting better sleep through this wearable because I wear it every single night. The sleep setting is so great. The Smart Vibes has like saved me because before, even though you're like, it's just right there, just press play on the app for the vibe that you want. The fact that the vibes, I wouldn't have had it on playing in the car if Smart Vibes wasn't on. And at night when I wake up and I have a little restlessness, like if that happens, then it goes back on its own. And I just like love the addition of that. So thank you so much for creating that for those of us that just can't press play often enough. Can you speak a bit to it around the sort of like HRV recovery and sleep windows? Because this is another massive reason I think for this device to be, it's like one of the devices I think everybody should be rocking.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the short answer of it is that Apollo, from our research, is now the very first wearable technology that improves sleep significantly. And by significantly, I mean like 30 to 60 minutes more sleep a night in as little as one night of using it to put you to bed and fall asleep. 30 to 60 minutes more sleep a night. And that sleep also has improvements in deep and REM sleep. And there's never been a technology or drug that has improved deep and REM sleep reliably. And the reason why we see that is because deep and REM sleep are often stages where we have to feel completely safe to enter because our bodies are paralyzed or cut off from the environment when we're in deep and REM sleep states. We're completely physically vulnerable, right? Like we can't respond to threat when it comes if our bodies are paralyzed. Mm-hmm. So to prevent us from even getting into that potential situation, the body actually and the brain shuts down access to deep and REM sleep or minimizes access to deep and REM sleep if we perceive threat of any kind. And that threat could be like a predator lurking outside our home, like in, 50,000 years ago, or it could be the thought that, what's wrong with me that I can't sleep? Like that is a thought that actually is a self-critical thought that's not true because there's nothing wrong with you that you can't sleep. It's just that our amount of stress and perceiving threat from the body, which if you say ask what's wrong with me that I can't sleep, and you're assuming that there's something wrong with you, which is a threat signal, right? So that's how the nervous system interprets it. And if we allow ourselves to think that way, which we have a choice in the matter over whether we were taught to or not, we can choose to not engage with those thoughts. And if we choose to not engage with those thoughts, we can restore a sense of safety around sleep. The other things are like sleep structure and circadian rhythms. Like Apollo helps you fall asleep at the same time and wake up at the same time. It helps you just regulate your energy during the day. So Smart Vibes that you were talking about is such a great invention discovery because we conducted clinical research. We have now 17 completed clinical trials across over 2,000 research subjects in like university grade clinical trials that are independent of us. So that was really cool because that data allowed us to train AI algorithms to understand how to turn Apollo on for you, because most people struggle to use stuff. They forget. Life is busy. So what if we could learn from your data, learn from your sleep data, learn from your recovery data during the day, and from data from your other wearables, if you have wearables like Oura or an Apple Watch, and then tune Apollo vibrations so that they turn on at the right time to give you the benefit that you want. So in the case that you experience, so one of the core features of Apollo vibrations, and by the way, anybody who's listening to this who wants to experience this, you actually can right now. You can go to the Apple App Store and download the Apollo Neuro app on your iPhone, and you can open the app, and within seconds, you'll experience what an Apollo vibration feels like. And I promise you, it'll be nothing like anything you ever felt come out of your phone before. And the reason why is
to put their phone like on their collarbone. Is that like sort of like the best place, or just like belly, or it doesn't matter?
That's like where you see I'm wearing my Apollo. That's the best place to try it for the first time.
Like
We recommend Yeah, put your phone into airplane mode, just hold it and you'll feel it vibrating, and just hold it against your sternum just for 30 seconds. If you close your eyes and just notice the waves coming and going, you will notice a shift in your body, even or in your breath or in your thoughts relatively quickly. It's usually as little as 30 to 60 seconds. And the reason why is because these vibrations increase vagus nerve activity, just like soothing touch, just like snuggling a pet. And that increase in vagus nerve activity increases heart rate variability, which is the leading metric of performance, longevity, recovery, and whether you're going to get an illness or whether you're going to recover well from an illness. HRV predicts all of it. So we want our HRV, our heart rate variability, which is a reflection of our vagus nerve activity, to increase over time. And Apollo is the first technology that you can actually wear that increases your heart rate variability just by wearing it. So you don't have to do anything. And that is really the beauty of Smart Vibes, because you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your goals for your day and night. And then we listen to your data from your Apollo or other wearables. And then we take that data and compose vibrations for you that turn on to help you deal with situations of challenge when they come up. Some of those situations may be like what you were in, where you had no idea something like that was going to happen, but Apollo was scheduled to turn on based on your data from the night before. And it happened to turn on at a time that was actually really helpful for you to help you get through that moment. And it basically just keeps you awake and energized during the times of the day that you say you want to be awake. And it keeps you asleep when you need to be asleep by detecting when you're about to wake up at night and then turning on automatically to prevent the wake up. So that's really the focus, is like making sure awake time is awake time, sleep time is sleep time, and both, you're fully in both as much as possible. And when you just do that alone, we see tremendous improvements in people's lives.
Yeah, it's so exciting too, because it's a relatively passive technology, right? You have to strap it on, you might have to plug it in and charge it from time to time, but mostly it's a passive technology. And that's what's, so helpful. And even in the case of, again, you've worked with athletes in this realm, and I'm here in Los Angeles on a 3-month contract, supporting as the director of nervous system performance, which really means a lot around expanding the window of stress tolerance. It talks about performance breathing a lot. We put people in ice baths. We have all this technology here, but the one thing that's been so beautiful is every one of those dancers, this is for Ariana Grande's world tour, sold out world tour. It's very exciting. So every one of 11 dancers now, and soon to be 13 dancers, has an Apollo on. They're wearing it daily. I've given them a sweet requirement of a minimum of 12 hours a day of wearing it, just so that they have the options to wear it when they dance or not is kind of up to them. And sleep is really a mandatory piece. And most of them are wearing it all the time. It's not on a charger. Like if they're not charging it, or if they're in the shower, they don't wear it. If they're in the ice bath, they don't wear it. Otherwise, they're wearing it all the time. It's about a full week now. So it's been beautiful to see people being like, oh, I'm wearing it. And like, it's a reminder device to be able that I exist, that they exist, that there's like a regulation that's meant to happen, that they're okay, that they're being supported and seen. And I'm tracking their data. I'm tracking their data on rings so that it will be a use case that we can kind of see where we're getting, where's the sleep improving, where's HRV improving over time. And for anyone that is out there listening too, I think it's important to say, because there's a wide variance on HRV, and it's really important that you're like not shaming yourself if your best friend has 40 points higher on HRV, that it's just you against you. These are all professional dancers, and they're professional athletes, top 1% of the world, like an NBA player would be, or an NFL player, with just different context. And there's a wide variety of HRV baselines that we've started with. And so really just not, like playing the game where you get to gamify it with yourself for HRV improvement. And I know you told me about your HRV improvement was like so amazing. How many points it went up?
It went up quite a bit. Everybody starts at a different place with HRV. And just so people know, HRV stands for heart rate variability. So this is the rate of change of our heartbeat over time, which is changing with the environment and with our breath. So there's natural variability in heart rate. And the more variability we have, it tends to mean we have a lower resting heart rate. And we know having a lower resting heart rate is something that a lot of elite athletes have, and they train for cardiovascular health. And resting heart rate is a big part of that. HRV is the other half of that. And so what we really want is to have our heart rate adjust quickly when stress comes and then decrease quickly when stress is gone. That's the sign that heart rate variability is high and in a healthy state. So everybody's starting at their own place. So when I started, I was probably in the 20 to 30s range in milliseconds, which is pretty average for Americans, generally speaking. who are in like high stress jobs, especially. But as I started using Apollo, and as unfortunately my physical exercise routine declined because I had less and less time to actually participate in exercise, which is a big HRV promoter, I just started focusing, when my work got more strenuous, I focused on regulation, nervous system regulation exercises, and Apollo, which doesn't require any time, which is really critical for me, and sleep. And Apollo really helped me with sleep and focus as the two main things I use it for. And my HRV over the course of a year went up to an average that was closer to like 50, 60s. And now since the last, and that was again without like doing athletic level HRV training like most athletes, because I'm a doctor, so I'm like in the hospital and working with patients a lot of the time at a desk. So do a lot of sitting. And my HRV went up to 60 average. So it's like double within a year, which is huge. So that means my like human potential capacity for adaptation, my ability to respond quickly and accurately when threat comes, doubled. My ability to wind down more quickly after stress was gone, doubled. That's kind of how we can think about how that HRV change is reflected in my performance. And then more recently, over the last year, I actually hit my peak, which was somewhere between like 180 and 230 something, which I've never gotten that high before. But I wasn't, again, not doing anything to train for this intentionally. So the only thing that I can really attribute it to is Apollo. And, you know, it's consistent with my lifestyle because I have a 15-month-old at home. I run a startup with my wife. I have a medical practice clinic that I train clinicians in. I run a nonprofit and I lecture all around the country regularly and do podcasts. And so my schedule is crazy, but I feel very calm and regulated. And and a lot of it just is about getting good sleep and keeping the environment and conditions with Apollo, you know, in a place that my body is regulated no matter what challenges I'm facing during the day.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And you're wearing it like I am. Like I'm wearing it most of the hours of the day and letting it go on and off, and sometimes setting it to special things that I want it to be given like a circumstance that I'm in. Like you and I set it to social and open when we were, I'm like, what's the key podcast thing? Social and open, let's go. So beautiful. The athletic thing is really interesting and an ongoing conversation, but also just like with people who are navigating other challenges in their life. Are there other stories that you can share with us about people who are going through heartache and divorce or, you know, some other sickness or ailment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and also I should say that Apollo is a general consumer product. We want it to be available to everyone. The mobile app version is a free general consumer product that works on iPhone. Apollo, the wearable, works on all Android and iPhone devices. The point being that most of the people who use this product, like we have hundreds of thousands of people using it. Most of the people that use it are healthy people that are just really, really stressed out, that work multiple jobs, that have kids, that are just struggling with the news every day and the overstimulation in the modern world. And that's actually one of the patterns that I noticed that was the most interesting to me, that I also talk about in my book, which is called A Simple Guide to Being Alive, coming out on June 1st. That my first book I'm very excited about.
What's it called? Say it again. A Simple Guide?
A Simple Guide to Being Alive.
Yeah.
You just go to asimpleguidetobeingalive.com if you want to check it out.
Cool.
But I think what I've noticed in the decades I've been working in this area and writing this book, I realized that the same stresses, again, that our top performers are facing are often the same stresses that our most severe mental health patients are facing. And it's too much overwhelming stimulation from the environment is the number one. So when we talk about like our bodies, when we understand like what a human body is, at the basic core, most basic level, the human body is a giant sensory organ. Mm-hmm. We receive information from the environment. We're designed to receive information from the environment. And in many different ways, like sight, sound, taste, touch, smell are just 5 of the ways. We also have intuitive senses and senses of our bodies like interoception and so many other different kinds of senses that we can develop. And we're getting bombarded by information all the time, let alone the fact that now looking at your phone for the first 30 minutes of every morning gives you as much information input as the average human received in a week of being alive in the 1950s.
Whoa.
So multiply that times how many 30-minute chunks of smartphone time we have every single day, right? It's a lot. It winds up being way too much information than we were designed or taught to handle. And so a lot of the people that I work with on the athletics front, interestingly enough, and the military front, are so excited about Apollo and the potential and what it's done for them and the potential for others, because it's helping them de-escalate, right? It's helping them wind down. That is like the number one single thing that we need more of. Not more stimulants, not more up. We need more help and assistance winding down. And it starts with winding down after work, winding down after any kind of stressful event, and winding down to bed. Because when we wind down to bed properly, we get more deep in REM sleep. We wake up feeling fully restored, and we can do anything we want the next day. We can hang out with our families. We can go to work. We can succeed at work. We can be calm and present with people, our loved ones and our children, our friends and family when we need to be, and not assholes to our colleagues at work, right? There's all these benefits that come from that, and still get our exercise and still do all the things and still feel great about it, even though it's a lot, despite that it's a lot. And to give you some interesting examples, like we've had kids who had autism that were struggling on the patient side, who like couldn't barely interact with their families, let alone not work jobs. Like they barely left the room at home. They barely interacted with their families at all, and didn't make eye contact at all for years. And we put Apollo on them, and they started making eye contact, and they started vocalizing their emotions without fear of what anybody would say to them about those emotions. And they became less physically aggressive because they were less anxious about being second class, right? And not being the same as everybody else. And so, or being treated that way. And so that had a tremendous benefit in many, many, like at dozens of kids with autism now. Actually, it's probably in the hundreds, because we have clinics using it for these kids as well, which has been really exciting. But we've had the chance to witness some of these cases in our families and also in my patients, and it was just incredible. People had severe depression who were like not able to they didn't feel able to leave their bedroom for 7 years, except to go to the bathroom, to come down to get food from the kitchen, and to go to doctor's appointments. They never left the house for 7 years, for their bedroom for 7 years.
Wow.
And these people, within 3 to 6 months, we saw people with these kinds of symptoms from depression and PTSD. We saw them coming down to hang out with their families, starting to engage again and be social, and then getting jobs. And one of my most favorite of these patients was someone who actually was in their rooms for this long, 7, 8 years, not leaving their room. And within 6 months, they had reapplied to school and gotten a job as a used car salesman.
Whoa.
I'm like, that is like one of the most social jobs you could possibly be in.
Yeah, like a sales job.
And we kept asking him, we're like, is there anything else you did other than Apollo? Like, were you doing therapy? Were you doing anything? He's like, no, it was just this. It just calmed me down, and I could do it. Made me realize I could do it.
Every journey needs a co-pilot. And if you're someone who takes your inner work or the journeys that you guide seriously, this is for you. Right now, more people are stepping into intentional psychedelic journeys for real change, peak experiences even with or without medicine. But what's still missing is proper support for the body before, during, and after. And that's where Vessel comes in. Vessel created the Love Stack, a 3-phase supplement protocol designed to support your body across the entire journey. This isn't a quick fix, it's preparation, support, and integration done right. And the results speak. Over 700 real users have used it in real-world settings, and 95% reported more stable mood afterwards. This is why facilitators and communities are recommending it. If you're going to step into or guide meaningful work, your body deserves real support. Your clients deserve real support. And we've made it easy for you. Check out myvessel.co. There's something so cool and presencing about it. And definitely, just like in the high stress life that so many of us are living, with all the micro stressors and the phone and the information and the television that no one should be watching and all of that. It's like, this is an opportunity to be able to like come home to yourself over and over again. Or like, it's almost like it's creating that, like, if I sat and did a meditation and said, let me presence myself, or if I did a body scan all the time, but it's reminding you to do it while you're going on your day-to-day activities. It's just so exciting, really. I'm so excited to watch the stats for the dancers that are here and just share all the ways that this technology is helping people. And I want to maybe as we start to wind down this conversation, speak to the fact that I've been using it as a tool now that I'm sort of out of the closet over the last year about the fact that I'm working with in similar ways to you, except you're very licensed to do it, but working with people in medicine spaces more and doing IFS parts work and working as an integration coach quite often, and that it's become the programs that I run are always relatively long-term containers, just meaning at least 8 weeks, because I believe integrating people into work they've done with medicine is like not optional, right? This is like you stand in the doorway as much as you want. When my friends call me and they're like, I did my 25th ayahuasca ceremony. And I'm like, I think you're missing the point. But like that integration piece is so important. And now I've really worked this in. It's like from the moment of the day after the medicine experience, as someone is integrating, saying, okay, this is your device. This is what you're going to work through. And it's really beautiful because it is, or like work with, as they're working through their integration homework, which I give them. I'm like a firm but fair coach. And it's sort of doing two things. It's giving them the device and putting it on their body as a reminder that they've had an opening experience, expansion, and let's just say reconfiguration of the patterns of their brain. Like you mentioned way earlier in the beginning of the podcast, almost like resorting the fear response into a safety response so that it doesn't feel so sticky or like hot on the stove. And then the vibratory technology is like also like giving a reminder or a baseline or something that's bringing them back to themselves in moments of like, it can be challenging to go through integration, right? You can have some ups and downs and some emotionality. And this is certainly not about stunting anybody's emotion. They should have their emotion. They should express or have some tears or have some laughter or whatever may be coming up. And also it's like a repeated ability for their body to come back to presence. Because I do assign breath work and send them audio tracks and sometimes meditation, depending on, like, every person's very different, what they're willing to adhere to. But this is something that I'm beginning to see that people are like, oh, it's the proof that it's like, it's my, I don't want to call it a trophy, but it's like, it's the proof that I've gone through this experience, and it's the support mechanism that's going to help remind me to stay on the path, right? If we're looking at people in medicine experiences as like stepping forward into their highest and best selves, well then like this is like a reminder on their body that their highest and best selves is like kind of right there with them, and they just have to be him, be her, be them to keep moving forward. I mean, other facilitators may listen to this, and I don't know how you're using it. I'd love to hear if you are, but it's such a wonderful tool as you cross into the threshold of integrating off of medicines. And I would say that's like with the wild renaissance and all the Texas legislations around ibogaine, around the medicines that people are doing both, you know, clinically and underground, that there is a huge avenue here. Not that people have to do medicine work if they don't want to, because you explained earlier, why take MDMA when you can strap an Apollo on? But just, it's a beautiful tool, right? To combine with these therapies as people are growing through them, and even without the medicine, to really be able to, like, I've done sessions where you guys have held big breathwork sessions where everyone's wearing the Apollo, and it's very different experience for people in many ways. They feel safer to go deeper.
Yeah, exactly. I think part of the way we describe it, is a very nice way of describing it. And I think it's also, just to add to that, you know, it's kind of like what we describe as a somatic anchor. So somatic is your body, and an anchor is is like an anchor on a boat, right? Yeah. And another way to think about it is if you've seen, you know, it keeps you present in your body. Another analogy would be like a token in Inception, like the spinning top that Leonardo DiCaprio spins around that reminds him of what's real, right? Yeah. And this is what's real. What's in our bodies is what's real, always, right? What's up here is not necessarily real. What's up here could be in the past, or it could be in the future. And the past doesn't exist anymore, and the future hasn't happened yet. So technically, none of those things matter that much anymore. Yeah. What matters is what's happening right now and what we can do or can experience right now. Now is the only moment where our choices actually matter and can be executed. That's where the future becomes the future, right? The future or becomes the present. So that's really important to understand. And mentally, we forget. Like, it's just when we're so distracted by so many other things going on around us, let alone smartphones, right, that are just bombarding us with information all the time. It's really easy when you think about this from the perspective of just distraction and focus, that when we have a million things happening around us that are not present, then it's really easy to be distracted away from the present. And our stress response system does a great job of keeping us distracted because it's trying to keep us alive. But now it's kind of been hijacked, and that's not good. So then it's up to us to remind ourselves by teaching the natural techniques like the breathing and the deep breathing and the meditation and the mindfulness and the yoga and the regular exercise and all of those like self-care stuff that we teach people is so important, and to have modern tools to help make up for the deficit of not learning those things earlier.
Yeah. Really well put, for sure. Yeah.
So the tool is really helpful because it's like when I noticed this for myself, like when I started out on my own breathwork meditation journey, I would do it for like 2, 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. And then I'd be like, well, this isn't fun, right? Like my mind is completely noisy with negative intrusive thoughts or things about things I'm supposed to be doing that day. And I don't even know what it's supposed to feel like to get to where I'm going, right?
Yeah.
And so Apollo is really interesting in the way that it nudges the nervous system into a state that is the state that we get to when we are in Shavasana, or when we have somebody give us a hug, or when we've entered a deeper meditative state or started to, or, when we've established a sense of safety from 60 or 90 seconds of deep breathing. Apollo gives us the somatic feeling in the body of what it feels like to be in that state. All of a sudden you have a bullseye, right? You have a target that is in front of you of what it's supposed to feel like. It's not a visual target, it's a feeling target. And when you don't know where that target is and you're trying to meditate or breathe your way there, it's really, really hard. It takes a lot of patience and time to get there, and you might be off track. But if you know what that target feels like, then you can just keep doing things that get you closer to that feeling. And the more things we do to get us closer to that feeling, the closer we get to that feeling, and the quicker the system learns to automate access to that feeling. In this case, calm, clarity, peace, joy, control of focus, right? Control of mind, quiet mind, all the great things, wonder, imagination, empathy, creativity, all of it is available to us at any time, as soon as we allow ourselves to come back into the moment where those things live. What you were describing about how you see the use of psychedelic medicines helping people heal and recover, we use that in the clinic. So I'm training ketamine and MDMA-assisted therapy. MDMA is not legal yet, but ketamine is. So we use ketamine to help people access altered states of consciousness that are in the same way I just described. It's like showing somebody what that bullseye feels like, right? Like when you nail the feeling of inner peace, what does that feel like? Oh, wait, I know what that feels like. I remember that feeling. Now I know that my body is capable of achieving it. So I'm going to start doing more things to get me in that direction. But the catch is that we have to feel safe enough to get there, right? And so we've been actually exploring. Apollo, I mentioned earlier, came out of some of our psychedelic research into the safety pathway. Apollo's not equal to MDMA. Apollo effects on safety are like probably 50% of MDMA and maybe like 60% of soothing touch, but it's not the same. It's just a way to give some of the benefits of that safety, so you don't rely on another person, or you don't have to rely on a drug to the body, and you could take it with you and make it more accessible, because we deserve to feel safe. And when we integrate that sense of safety around the physiological sense of safety, like safety in my nervous system, we integrate that with psychedelic medicines or psychotherapy in general. What's very interesting is that people feel more comfortable talking about their deepest, darkest secrets and the challenges they've had, and they're not self-judging themselves while they're talking about it, which is what prevents it from coming out, the vulnerability from coming out. And what we know from healing is that vulnerability is a source of healing. If my patients won't talk to me about what's really going on, I can't really help them. And so we've been integrating Apollo with psychedelic medicines for 5-6 years now, and just watching what happens when people do it in the wild. And we just published a white paper last year in over 500 people, looking at folks from ketamine practices and people who experience psychedelics in the wild or with an underground provider. And we saw that in the 3 phases of psychedelic therapy, which are preparation before, medicine administration, and the time the medicine's actually given and then active in the body, and then the integration period after, Apollo helps with all 3. The preparation helps people feel less anxious going into the experience. And that's really important, because then they're more likely to allow the experience to just happen without trying to control it, analyze it, judge it. Then in the experience, if they feel afraid or scared and they start resisting the experience or trying to shut it down, Apollo helps them allow the experience and work through it. without fear. And they're in control of it. So it's really helpful because they don't have to rely on somebody else. They can just be like, oh, I'm feeling a little afraid or worried or concerned. They press the buttons, it turns on, and then they're able to have access to remembering what it feels like to be in control of their state, even in moments of them feeling the most out of control. So helping people navigate bad trips or very challenging psychedelic experiences has been really exciting to see. And then, like you were describing, 100% people are using it as an integration tool where they get it, they continue to use it after, they get it afterwards. And then it creates that sense of being a somatic anchor where even when your mind starts to wander to the old ways of living that were not serving you, you feel Apollo and it reminds you, oh, wait, this is the path of the journey I'm on, right? I'm on the path of coming back to myself. Myself is right here. Let's bring my brain back. And then that continues to amplify over time and keep people engaged in integration practices. And also from what we can tell, again, this is early days in terms of data in this department, but we're seeing people get better outcomes in their psychedelic experiences when they integrate Apollo compared to when they don't, and require less medicine on the whole. So that's really, really exciting.
That's really exciting. Yeah. And I just think adherence is everything too. You know, there's a potentiality always. And I have sometimes challenges with clients in general with adherence and adhering to integrations that's expanding you or it's building new routine while they're neuroplastic, all the things. And it's just something that is like, oh, need to stay on the path. There's also that, right? As an adherence tool, there's like the knowledge, the knowing that it is there with them as something that they knew that they've integrated in their lives. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and there's one other thing to add to that, interestingly enough, which is that again, this is what I cover in my book because this stuff is so poorly taught. I was taught this very, very poorly. You probably were too, I'm guessing, that there are two ways we learn, right? Not just one. It's not just people tell me stuff and I read it in a book and I remember it and then put it into practice. That's one way of learning, right? And that's called top-down learning. It's only 50% or less of the way we're supposed to learn. Then there's learning through experience or feeling, which is bottom-up learning. That's the other half or just over half of how we learn. And learning bottom-up means body first to brain. Reading and being taught something is like what we do with our patients and clients is brain to body. Brain to body learning, even when you're learning from somebody who's like world expert that you trust, only works about 50% of the time because we're that bad at following and remembering directions. It's not because there's anything wrong with us. It's just hard to just learn that way. And so the way we learn the best is actually a combination of having a really good teacher and then also having experiences that teach you. And experiences teach through feeling. And so Apollo, with all the great books and teachers and everything out there that teach us how to live better, Apollo's doing the other 50%, which is like, this is how you should feel when your body is in a state that's primed for learning. And this is how your body can learn through feeling to help complement what you're learning through reading and teachers and people like us.
For sure. And even just memorization, I'm trying to think of all the avenues that like I keep applying and talking to even with the dancers. It's like you're more regulated, you're down regulated, you're going to be more social, you're going to be more connected, you're going to remember new choreography more easily, you're going to feel less nervous in your audition, whatever the thing might be. So,
Exactly.
So cool. Yeah, thanks for adding that. Okay, I'm going to give you 10 quick fire questions. These are adapted from the Actor Studio. I always say this, which is based off of Bouillon de Culture, which is a beautiful French television show. And I love these questions, and I've been bringing them to the podcast after the passing of James Lipton, who was one of my favorites. What is your favorite word?
My favorite word is probably defenestrate, which means to throw out of a window.
To throw out of a window. I love it. What is your least favorite word?
Shame.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
I would say people doing things they love.
What turns you off?
People doing things because they think they're supposed to.
What sound or noise do you love?
It's probably like Sonny Rollins playing the saxophone.
Love that. What sound or noise do you hate?
This is funny. My dog barking.
What's your favorite curse word?
I can say it?
You can say anything.
Probably shitballs.
I like it. It's creative. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I always wanted to be a professional musician or athlete. I was better at athletics than music, but yeah, I mean, if I could be like a professional jazz musician or a professional beach volleyball player, I think those two things would top my list.
Cool. I love that. I love when I get to learn about people. What profession would you not like to do?
Gastroenterologist.
Okay, good. And the last one is, if heaven exists or the universe or whatever you call it as you expand into the next plane of existence, what would you like to hear God or the universe say or tell you or whisper in your ear when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I'm going to flip this one because I know it exists because I have experienced enough of life to know that it exists. And I think we're going to hear the same thing at the gates that we can hear every day if we listen, which is, I've got you.
Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you so much for all your work. Thanks for sharing time. I know your time is so valuable, and just for sharing with the audience all your vision and all your expertise, all your knowledge and all your love, and just for making this device that I love so much. If somebody wants to contact you and they have really burning questions to ask you, where should they come and find you?
On socials at Dr. David Rabin. And you can find me on my personal and clinical website, drdave.io. You can find more about Apollo Neuro at apolloneuro.com, and my upcoming book, A Simple Guide to Being Alive.com.
Amazing. I'm going to be one of the first people out there reading it. I love you so much. This has been really beautiful. Have a wonderful weekend, and more soon.
This is great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining us here on Well Power. You can submit questions, learn more, shop incredible brands, and connect with me at wellpower.life, or follow me on social at biohacking.breath.cold. From comfort to courage, friends, we're doing it. Any foul language you hear is not approved by my mother.